Hey everybody, welcome back to Leading Thriving Cities, our show where we shine a spotlight on leadership in public service and have deep conversations about sustainability and how we create a thriving future for our teams. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners. Today's guest is Anello Hill Zanoni. He has the unique perspective of being a son of two public servants, one of whom is a city manager. This is going to be such good content for city managers and really people in public service that have kids. It's such a unique perspective to understand how that career impacts them. But the beautiful part is he has chosen a career in city management and in public service. And so knowing what he knows, he chose to go into public service anyway. It's a fascinating conversation that I promise you're going to find value in. Thanks for joining us on Leading Thriving Cities. Anello, thank you for being here on Leading Thriving Cities.
Yes,
you're going to bring an interesting perspective to this. This is a little different than our normal episode. You are very early in your public service career, currently working in the city of Kerrville.
Yes, sir. Management Analyst.
Management Analyst, which I asked you ahead of time, what does that mean besides looking at a lot of spreadsheets? And your answer was?
Looking at a bunch of spreadsheets.
Looking at a bunch of spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And so you're very early in this career, but I think the unique perspective piece comes from the fact that your dad is also a city manager.
Yes.
You've seen it all at this point, right?
Oh,
And he's currently city manager of Corpus Christi, Texas.
Yes,
is that
sir.
correct?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So knowing that there's advantages and challenges that come with being a child of a city manager, what are some of those? What is it like being the kid and growing up in that world?
So the advantages, I'll start with that. It's pretty cool because he knows a lot of people. So a lot of people know who I am through him. So like when I go to HEB, people will come up to me and be like, hey, isn't your dad Peter Zanoni? I'm like, yeah, he is. I'm like,
And you're hoping they're asking it a nice way.
Oh,
right?
yeah, most of the time, yeah. Sometimes they're like, oh, there's pothole on this street or something like that. Sometimes it's negative, but that's just how it is. You know?
Yeah. That's part of that public life, right?
Is, yes, sir.
Yeah, I would imagine he is probably pretty widely known, and that does then transfer to the family. Does that sometimes, do you wish there was a little more anonymity, or do you enjoy being known?
No, I enjoy it.
You enjoy it?
Yeah.
Your personality is geared for that.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the challenges of having a family in city management?
Yeah, so like he works long hours, so I wouldn't see him that much growing up. So during the weekdays, I wouldn't see him that much. That and then the negativity he gets from the political side of it. So like when people complain about streets, but then he gets them fixed, and they're complaining about the construction. So that's the difficult part of it.
Yes, I can imagine. That's because people don't necessarily understand complexity, do they? They
No,
look
they
for
don't.
somebody to blame. And if you're at the top of the org chart, that blame naturally lands, right?
Yes, sir, yeah.
How do you navigate that? Because my dad never had a public job. There was never any indication of, hey, this person doesn't like your dad for a random reason. I never experienced that. How do you navigate that as a kid? What does that do to you?
It's difficult, but you kind of just gotta just deal with it. You can't really do anything. You can't say anything because it'll just make things worse. So you kind of just have to accept the fact that you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
So that's how I go through it.
Interesting. So what's interesting about this is you have decided to go into public service.
I have, yes.
So despite seeing everything, all the behind the scenes, you've decided to give this a go. As you think ahead and say, hey, maybe I want to be a city manager someday, and also parallel if you decide to have children, what are things you would maybe do differently or try to do differently in order to insulate them from some of those experiences?
Well, there's not much I would want to do differently. I think my dad did a really good job.
That's a good answer.
He's my role model. He got me into it. I enjoy it, and it's meaningful work. So meaningful work is going to be hard, and I'm ready for it. So
I like that. How did he help you understand the meaning behind everything that happens in public service? Was that something he talked about a lot?
He never really talked about it. It's just something I experienced through other people that will come up to me and say he's doing a really good job, and that makes me feel good. And I know it makes him feel good. So it's that part of it, the part that you can make a positive impact on somebody's life. Yeah.
Is there a particular area of public service you're excited about getting into? So you're entering in through Management Analyst, and you said that's an opportunity right now to learn a ton.
A ton, yes, sir.
And so is there a particular area that excites you?
I would say if I get the assistant city manager role, that would be really good because I get to do the same thing, but without the negativity part of it, like the political part of it where people get mad at me for everything.
There's a natural climb that we all want to kind of go on to climb higher and higher and higher. But every ACM I work with, I'm like, why the hell would you want to be a city manager? That is exhausting. At ACM, you get paid pretty well. You have a lot of the same benefits. You get to do incredible work, but you don't have people that are mad at you for no reason. That's a pretty nice place to be.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. So management analyst, one of the things you and I were talking about, our previous interview we just did was with your boss,
Yes.
With Dalton Rice, who's the city manager there in Kerrville. And we were talking about this idea of embracing failure.
Yes.
That's how we learn. And there's an entrepreneurial side that he and I kind of both share. We're fine with failure. Let's go screw something up so we can learn. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that environment that creates for you as somebody who's on the beginning of this learning journey.
I think it's perfect. I think I got blessed with this situation. I'm super grateful for Dalton. And I'm an athlete, so through sports, I've had to learn to accept failure and grow through it. So so that's how I am as a person. And then when I met Dalton, that's how he is as a person too. So it kind of just clicks. So it works.
So you're an athlete. What do you compete in?
Track and field at Shriner University.
Track and field. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You know, one of the things they talk about when it comes to being in shape and doing that is you got to be really, really comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
So is that something you've gotten good at just through athletics and learned to then transfer into your career?
Yes, sir. It definitely has been. Yes.
What's the time recently in your professional life you were wildly uncomfortable? You felt like you were out of your depth, but you learned something cool.
So every day. Every single
Just showing up every day?
Yeah. But so Dalton does a really good job. He has me present at every council meeting I can possibly present at. And there's public speaking and then there's presenting at council meetings.
Yeah.
That's, two different things. Council meetings is way
What makes
scarier.
them different?
It's just the pressure of it. I don't know. I can't really explain it, to be honest. It's more like, because it's like a professional career rather than like presenting in class where you can mess up and like students don't really listen to you. So it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
But this, like, people care because what you're presenting affects their lives. So
yes, it matters. There's an extra pressure to that.
There's an extra pressure. Yes, sir.
I'm wondering if people in city management ever get used to that, if it just becomes second nature.
The ones I've talked to, they say not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's something that with the responsibility that comes with that, right? That
Yes,
everything you're doing matters so much and so deeply that ultimately that's a huge responsibility, like you said, to people's lives.
Yeah.
Is that ability to impact people's lives part of what attracts you to public service?
That's mainly what attracts me. Yes, sir.
Okay. Gotcha. That, and how do you see that in the work you're doing now? Are there ways you can recognize going from I'm staring at this spreadsheet all day to I'm presenting to council to how that actually positively impacts people's lives?
Yeah. So for instance, I've been working on a stormwater utility fee because we have very little drainage infrastructure in Kerrville. So when it does rain, it rains a lot and it floods a lot.
Yeah.
So I personally went and seen all the roads that floods because it's hilly and people can't even get to work. So when I, present stuff like that, I'm like, I'm making an impact on people's lives. Obviously, they're not going to like that they had to pay more money for it, but they don't understand the background behind it, that we're doing it so we can help people get to work and not to get their cars flooded and all the property damage and house floods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
It's funny. One of the things we work with so often is helping people understand how to connect the mundane to impact. Every little thing we do has a positive impact on somebody's life. So there are probably parts of that job that are mundane, right? I got to go document every place where it's flooding. That's not super exciting at the end of the day. But if it can make people, enable them to get to work and live their lives, even if it's raining, that's a huge impact.
Huge impact, yes.
I like that, man. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So the idea of impacting people and getting into public service, do you look at that city management role knowing everything you know and say, eventually I would like to be a city manager?
Most definitely, yes.
Okay, so not planning on topping out at ACM then.
No, definitely city manager. I want it all. Yeah, I'm here for it all. So
are you wired naturally to just navigate the political side of things?
I am. I'm a people person, I'd like to think. So, I can deal with the negativity. With sports, I have to deal with that. With anything I do, I have to deal with negativity. There's always two sides to it. So I've just kind of been accustomed to it growing up. That's just how I was raised.
How does sports make you better able to handle that?
So sports is a lot of pressure, just like with my professional job. It's a lot of pressure. And then you got to, you can't upset your team. You want to do good. It's pressure to perform well all the time, but you're not going to. So you kind of just learn to deal with, the negative side of that. And then you're gonna have people that are gonna talk down on you if you have a bad game, but you just got to learn how to deal with it. And that's, I haven't said I got there yet, but I don't think anybody will ever get there. It's just you kind of just better at faking it than other people. I think that's just how it is. So.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So as you're working on some of these projects, obviously they can get a little bit nerdy.
Yeah.
My theory is there's nobody cool in city management. I've never met anybody that didn't get really nerdy about systems and frameworks and how it all connects together. What are some of those things that you really love about the nerdier side of this business, about the minutia of how things work?
It's really interesting, actually. Like, people don't understand how things work, but when you start doing it behind the scenes, you're like, oh, that's how that works. Like, they don't understand. They just think, oh, people come and just pick up your trash. And it's just like, but there's more behind it, There's just a bunch of stuff behind the scenes that people don't know about. And it's super interesting. I'm still learning more about it. So
yeah, it's wildly complex, isn't it?
It's super complex. Yeah.
And we think that the problems are just clear to us. And so the solutions are simple, but they never are.
Yeah.
So much of what I'm discovering in city management is this ability to take the complex and make it as simple as possible. Is that something as you're presenting to city council that you've kind of had to learn that art of simplifying and editing?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So Dalton likes to say, be brief, be bright, be gone. And I've taken that to heart.
He told us about that.
Yeah, I've taken that to heart.
There's some magic to that, isn't
there? There is. Yes, sir.
Be brief, be bright, and be gone. I thought about how it affected like meetings. I didn't think about how that would then affect like storytelling with the council and helping them understand something.
Yeah. So they tell me the more you speak, the more confused they get. So
that makes a lot of sense. The more you're throwing out there, the more chance that they're going to be confused.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Have you found be brief, be bright, be gone? Have you found that bleeding into other areas of your life?
Oh, yes, sir.
And how you communicate with everybody?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Trying to make it as simple as possible for anybody to understand.
That means this is going to be a short interview then. We're going to be brief. We're going to be bright. We're going to be gone.
Yes, sir.
I like that.
Yes, sir.
Now, in the past, I think there was a lot of appeal in city management and public service to people because it was stable, right? It was stable, had a good retirement at the end. You could work 20 years and then either retire and start another career, or you could keep going. That stability was enough for a lot of people. We hear all the time about younger generations, how they want different things.
Yeah.
Are there things on your list beyond stability and retirement that you would like to see in public service?
For me personally, no. For me personally, it's mostly about impacting people's lives positively. Obviously I want to have a stable career so I can take care of myself and my family, but that's not my main focus. Yeah. If I like the public sector because it's straightforward. Like you can't hide things from people. Like I like that, Yeah. So that's the benefit for me is being able to, make a positive impact on people's lives. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny you said something there. There's a transparency to public sector work. One of the things we hear over and over again about younger generations is this deeper desire for work-life balance. Less of, I'm willing to give everything of myself, no matter what it means for my family, no matter what it means for those around me. I'm going to just work until I'm done and I break. My generation's real good at running headfirst through a wall. Yeah. How do you process that idea of work-life balance? What does that look like? Because obviously you're an athlete right now.
Yes.
You're in school, I think full-time.
Yes, sir.
And you're also working for the city. So right now, work-life balance probably doesn't exist for you.
It does not, no.
Is that something you want to exist? When you think about your career, is there a good balance there that you're going to shoot for?
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, so like for right now, priority is school, priority is also work, and priority is also sports. So all three of those are priorities. I can't prioritize one over the other. Obviously, I need school to go into further for my work. Yeah. And sports, I can go without sports, but it's an obligation and I committed to it. So they're all commitments that I'm going to stick to. And so, yeah.
And they're at the end of the day, they're temporary.
They are temporary. So.
You're not committed to them forever. Is there a pressure early in your career to just say yes to everything?
I would say a little bit, yes. Okay. Yeah. I could quit. I was basketball before track and I quit basketball. Okay. And then I decided to join track late. So, and I was committed to basketball my entire life pretty much. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So that was a big change.
It was a huge change.
What pushed you in that direction to make that change?
It was just, I wasn't happy with where I was at. So I went to track. My coach, I like him, like his personality. He's what he motivates me like in everything I do.
Yeah. What does he do leadership wise that motivates you?
He's just good at connecting with people. He's a really good people person.
That connection.
Yeah.
Piece.
And I'm huge on connection because I'm a people person myself. So I recognize that in other people and it just motivates me to do that with other people, try to find that connection with them. So.
Hey, I'm interested in this conversation about the pressure to say yes so often early on, because I think there really is something to the idea of the more we say yes to, the more we experience. The more we experience, the more we learn. And then we are able to then filter what we want our lives to be based on that experience. Here's my fear, and I have no way of proving this, but we're gonna talk this out anyway. My fear is we build the muscle of just say yes because that is success. And then we never exercise another muscle. We get so used to that and say, well, it has to be that way right now because it's early in my career. But then we look up at the end of that person's career and they are just a husk of themselves. They're burned out. They're divorced twice. They're alcoholics because at the end of the day, they never learned how to say no. So how do you think about that in terms of there's pressure to say yes right now, but eventually you're going to have to learn to say no.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going through right now. Actually, I'm learning to start saying no because I've already experienced burnout earlier this year. As soon as school started and I'm taking 5 classes, trying to balance that with work and sports, it's hard. So I'm learning to say no to some things. I've missed practice to go to work. I've missed classes to go to work. I miss work to go to classes. I miss work to go to, practice. So it's just a balance that you got to find. It's hard to find, but hopefully I find that soon.
The world is still spinning despite saying no.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the thing we run into so often is if I say no, or I set a boundary or something, everything's going to collapse, or people are going to realize I don't have it all figured out. But there's a vulnerability to say, hey, I can't do all of this, and so I'm going to back off a little. When you're in that process of understanding you need to back off, but figuring out how, is there guilt that comes with that? Like, what are the people going to think of me if I say no to this, or if I can't do everything?
Yeah, there's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of guilt, yeah. But it's just something you got to deal with. And, I'm still trying to figure that out. But,
if it makes you feel better, almost everyone that sits across me is still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Moment to moment, I'm still trying to figure it out sometimes. I think this is the work and the journey, because everything we're doing is towards the idea of sustainability.
Yes.
Because I encounter so many people that are burned out, and as a result, then they're damaging themselves, they're damaging their career, their teams, their families. Everybody is being damaged by this burned out person. And we're learning how to move in a different direction, but it's slow. It's human growth. So it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back on a good day.
Yes.
And so we're all trying to figure this out. And that's where a lot of these conversations come in. And I'm always interested in y'all's perspective early on of how do you learn to navigate that? And it sounds like if you're willing to take a step back, man, I got people my age and older who still haven't figured that out. Yeah. That seems like retreating. That seems like failure. You know what I mean?
It does, but you have to take that step back sometimes, because sometimes you don't see the full picture, and you got to step back and see it. Maybe there's another path you go down.
Yeah.
So I like to say, like, I want to eat, so I'm gonna have a lot on my plate, and I can't complain about it. But sometimes you can't put more food on the plate.
Yes.
So that's just something you got to learn how to deal with, and you got to prioritize what food you want on the plate and what food would be best for you. So
I love that metaphor, because really that is very, very true. There's an image we show at the beginning of every presentation we give of a person pushing a boulder up a hill.
Yes.
You may have seen that. I don't know if you were at the TCMA presentation we did. When you look at that image, what do you see in that? Is that boulder success if it's really, really big?
I see it as success, yes.
Okay.
And sometimes, you get stuck. You're trying to go up and there's rocks in front of you, but you have to take that step back. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be hard, but then you got to rotate and then go up a different path.
Yeah.
That's just how it's got to be.
Have you figured out yet the art of asking for help to push that up the hill?
Yeah. So Dalton, actually, recently we've been doing me and our intern have been doing a presentation. We're ready to do the 3rd time on Thursday because we keep messing it up because we don't ask for help. And, we think we're failing. We have to ask for help for something, but we don't know what we're doing most of the time. Yeah. So we have to ask for help. So we have to talk to our different departments. And I think it's good because he's teaching me how to, communicate, which is important for the public sector, communication with everybody. So Dalton likes to say there's no harm in asking too many questions. He would rather ask too many questions, not ask the right questions. Because if you don't know and you're sitting on it, you're not going to know. So
and it takes some humility and confidence in equal measures to say, hey, I don't know, I need help.
Yeah.
Is that scary as you navigate that? Like, is that a fear of having to raise your hand and say, I don't know?
It was at first, but you get accustomed to it. I've gotten accustomed to it. I love to ask for help, like I like to help other people. So I want to help myself.
You're really speaking this idea of a leader who creates psychological safety. If you're psychologically safe to say, I don't know, you try it for the first time. You're like, I don't know, please don't hurt me. And you find out nobody hurts you. Like they go, okay, let's help. Let's figure this out. Let's navigate this, right? And then the more you do it, the more that hand goes up faster. And you're more willing to say, I don't know. Because the I don't know is then paired with, but let's go figure this out.
Yes.
And there's something about, I think, what a leader brings to the table that can create that for people. And it's that steadiness, right? Dalton's, he's probably not irritated if you have questions. If you say, I don't know, he goes, okay, let's answer this.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly how he is. And I love that about him. So
there's something to that. I think ultimately our leadership style is usually a mixture of some of the good things and the bad things that we've experienced from leaders in the past.
Yeah.
And the hope is it's more good than bad. But I think we can be far more intentional about that. Do you think at this age where you're at today about how you're going to lead when you get into that first leadership position?
I have no idea. I'll get there when I get there. I'm still trying to learn.
This is the interesting part is I think we can intentionally create that version of us to start to look around at the leaders we experience in our lives. You've experienced good leaders, you've experienced bad leaders, right? Or leaders that were having a bad moment. We've all experienced that. I look at some of the leaders I had in my younger years that were not great. I learned so much from them. Now, often it was, here's what not to do, but I was slowly accumulating this library of, okay, here's what I want to do in that situation. Here's what I don't want to do in this situation. And being really intentional so that when I first started leading people, I wasn't starting from nothing. I wasn't just trying to figure it out. It was, okay, here's the experiences I want to pull from. And here's the ones I don't. Have you ever experienced that where you had that leader that you learned a lot about what not to do?
Oh yeah, plenty of those, especially with sports. Plenty of those, yes, sir.
Okay. I wonder if there's something about sports that attracts more leaders that are not, they know the technical side of the sport. They're not necessarily good at the human side of motivating people.
Yeah, you got a lot of coaches, they're either good at one or the other. There's very rare coaches, and those are the great coaches that are good at both, the technical side and the leading people side.
Yes. And I think that's true of leadership too. I think you're going to find there's a lot of people that are promoted because they're good at technically doing something, and they're a disaster when it comes to the people side.
Yeah.
And there's a certain level of leadership where you cannot be that way. You have to learn the people side, which is teachable. It's learnable, but it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Your track coach that you're with right now, we may have to cut this part out, but I'll ask, what is it that he does that kind of inspires you, that creates that I want to go run for this guy?
Yeah. And he leads how I would want to lead. He leads, let's do this our way, not let's do this my way, and it's not let's do this your way. It's our way. So we figure it out together. And I think that's really important because, you're a leader. Your people below you are not robots. They're people too. They're just like you. So, you got to figure it out together. And I think that's an important thing that a lot of people miss is it's a group effort.
That's beautiful. So the idea of we're going to do it our way. And so have y'all clearly defined what our way is?
We have, yes, yeah.
That is so cool. There's something in that co-creation. You're all bought in, aren't you?
Yes, sir. We are. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
We need to have your coach on this show. Sounds like he knows what he's doing.
He's from Austin.
I love that. Yeah. Let's do that, man. Yeah. That's so exciting. So getting into this, our whole point in this entire project is we want to tell more stories of public servants. I think public service is a beautiful way to spend your life. It is impactful. It genuinely makes people's lives better. But there are things cities do that are not sustainable. There are things that their staffs are not able to thrive. And my guess is as a child of a city manager, you have experienced times when the staff wasn't thriving or your dad wasn't able to thrive because of things happening, right? Or the way they were doing things. Are there things that cities need to kind of rethink to allow their teams to thrive in the future?
Yeah, I'd say the most important thing is adapting to your staff, your workforce. You need to adapt to your workforce and all to adapt together because so many people will be stuck in their own ways, and it's hard to work with people like that if they're not willing to listen and say, "Hey, I need help," or agree to disagree, or for the betterment of everybody.
Yeah. So
I think that's the most important thing is being able to adapt.
Yeah. That's interesting. What are some ways when we think about younger generation, this idea of public service? Are there things they need to do to tell that story to the younger generation better to attract more people to public service?
I think seminars or just teaching it in schools. Nobody really teaches anybody about what the public sector really does. So
interesting.
Yeah. So like when I didn't know, even though my dad was a city manager, I would only know like a couple of things because he would tell me when we see them happening. But like people don't know like what's going on. They just think that's just how life is because they're just they don't know.
Yeah.
So the they don't know is the problem. People should know what goes on, and you'll get thriving cities because everybody, the community, the workforce is bought in together, and they're all one collective force.
That's really interesting. One of the things in the interview with Dalton he was talking about was the idea that you've got the council, you've got the staff, you've got the city itself, the citizens, that it really is all one team. We're all kind of working, but we're different elements. I think telling that story of how this works and what public servants actually do is really interesting. Sounds like an interesting project for a management analyst, quite frankly.
Yeah. Putting more work on my plate.
No, really. This idea of we need to tell our stories better. And again, maybe it is
be bright, be brief, be gone.
Be bright, be brief, be gone. Maybe that's part of that storytelling, right? But to be able to tell that story to the generation coming up behind you and maybe even some of your peers to say, hey, there's something worth considering in life in public service. What are some elements that would make that story impactful and appealing to younger folks? I like how I say younger folks like I'm 1,000 years old. I just realized when I say that how old I sound. Sorry, go ahead.
I would say honestly just communicating. There's a lack of communication. There's a lack of people that show up to council meetings and council meetings and directly involve the community. We need the community there. So I would say what we need to do, like as every city needs to do, is be better at communicating with the citizens, have the citizens be better at communicating with the workforce, because the citizens don't understand how hard it is to work in the public sector. They don't understand, the hardships of it.
Yeah.
From the lowest guy up to the highest guy, it's hard all the way through. There's no easy position in public sector. So once they can, understand that, they'll, we understand each other, communicate together, work together, and a thriving city.
That's something I've encountered over and over again is a lack of understanding, right? I think there's a natural distrust of government and specifically government employees. I saw a post a while back and it was talking about the highest paid employees in the city of Austin, right? And some of them are really high up there. It's a large city, a lot to do. And really to attract the professionals that do that job, you're competing with the private sector and it is going to pay a lot. But the comments in that story were just insane. It was all about, well, they're not doing anything for that money. I'd love to follow them around all day and see what they do. I'm like, please do follow them around. We need to tell the story better of how challenging this is and how impactful it is.
So speaking on that, my dad, he just gave himself he didn't really give himself a raise. The council approved for his raise.
Council approved a raise, yeah.
So people were complaining because he got a raise and we'll give the money back to the citizens. My dad goes to work at 7 a.m. He doesn't come home until 9 p.m. So if he does, they say, he doesn't do anything. He does a lot.
Yes.
They don't understand half the stuff that city managers do or any, public.
And then there's the challenge of, if let's pretend he left, we got to hire a new city manager now. Yeah. It is a highly competitive market. There are very few people that have both the leadership expertise and the public service expertise, because I think if you took your average CEO and dropped them into a city manager role, they could figure it out. It would take a while. There is so much unique to the public service world that we don't understand. And it's such a unique role. And that's why I find this so fascinating, this entire project of understanding people that would choose to do this. Growing up, under your dad and watching what he did for a living and seeing the impact he has had and continues to have, I believe. What are some things you look at with that and you say, man, when I'm at his point where I'm city manager, I've been city manager for a while, what are some of those impactful things you look at and say, man, I really hope I've done something that means that much?
If I get one person to say, thank you, you've helped out, you're doing a good job, that's all I want.
That's your measure of success.
That's my measure of success.
I like
if
that.
one person says I'm doing a good job and they're grateful for what I'm doing for them and I'm helping their life in a positive way, that's all I look for.
Yeah. And there'll be days that happens a lot. Yeah. And there'll be days you don't hear that at all. Yeah. There'll be days you might hear the opposite.
That's part of the process though.
That's an interesting measure for success. As a dad, I got 3 sons, and I think as fathers, we're really hard on ourselves. One, we usually choose to work hard. We choose to work too hard sometimes and to not always be there for our kids. And I think we always are hard on ourselves about that. I know I am. I've referred to myself as a bad dad a lot of times. Until finally my kids were like, you just need to shut up. You're a great father. You're doing a good job. Stop being hard on yourself. What I've learned is they don't necessarily remember not always being there. They remember the times I was there. So being the son of a city manager, is that accurate for you as well?
100%, yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes, sir. I remember every game he's gone to, all of it.
Yeah. That's interesting, because I think we get hung up as parents on the things we couldn't do. Y'all get focused as kids on the things we did do. Yeah.
And so for me, I know he's gone all day, but when I go out and people saying your dad's doing a good job, that's all I need to know. I just need to know he's doing what he needs to be doing and doing a good job. And I'm like, okay, you can be gone all day. I'll see you on the weekend, I'm glad you're making a positive impact on people's lives. That's all I care about personally.
That's interesting. Yeah. So the final question, and I didn't put it anywhere on the list, but I'm curious your take. If you wrote a book today about your entire life up to this point, who would you dedicate that book to?
My dad.
Okay. My dad. He's the hero, huh?
Yeah, my dad and my mom, if I could do that.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. What does your mom do for a living?
She works in the public sector too. I think she did budget. She works with the budget.
Gotcha.
But right now she's a flight attendant for Delta.
Listen, I got to say, having two family members in public service, that is a very nerdy family. There are a lot of conversations about budgets and how things work, isn't there?
Yeah. My mom wanted me to do budget, but I was like, Mom, I'll stick to people getting mad at me. That's too technical for me.
You can handle the political side a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't want to be that I think the budget directors are more stressed, or finance directors are more stressed than city managers are.
In a lot of ways, I think you're right. There's so many people pulling on them in so many different directions, and they're going, this is the pot of money. I can't make it larger. What do you want from me? I would imagine that is a highly stressful job.
Yeah, balancing the budget is really extremely stressful.
Yeah, and then you got the needs of council, whatever they want. Yeah. You got the public, what they want. That's interesting. That is really interesting.
And I actually think they get under recognized. They don't get recognized enough. I think finance directors, they're the meat, it's our budget. We can't do anything without our budget. So I don't think they get enough recognition for the work they do. It's a lot of extraneous work.
And it's such a stressful rhythm because usually, budget season ends when the new budget's adopted and it starts in October 1, right? Well, budget season really starts January 1st, right? They're already having conversations about what do we need in the next budget? How do we plan? How do we do this better? There's no break from the craziness of budget season, essentially. Yeah. And that's only a piece of the job, right? It's a big piece, but it's just a piece. It's not the whole thing. Yeah. That's really interesting. That's a good insight. This is why I like having someone on that's the son of both a budget director and a city manager. That is fascinating to me. Anello, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for being willing to do this.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us for Leading Thriving Cities. You might also like our other podcast, The Leader Lab. You can find it on all the major podcast platforms and on YouTube. Just search for The Leader Lab. Each episode is under 10 minutes. It's just a quick thought to help you level up your leadership. You'll also find all the other leadership content we are putting out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just search for @ForwardPartner.